The last thing my mother said before she closed the front door was, "Maybe Christmas will be easier without you." I stood on the porch holding the casserole I had spent all afternoon making, listening to my own family laugh inside while the lock clicked shut. In that moment, I realized I wasn't just left out of Christmas. I had been erased. If you enjoy stories about real family betrayal and second chances, I'd appreciate you subscribing to Family Betrayal. And one quick thing before we keep going. The faces, photos, and scenes you see are only visual illustrations to help tell the story. They aren't real pictures of the people involved. I wish I could tell you that night came out of nowhere. It didn't. For years, my older brother Jason treated me like I was the family failure. After my construction company went bankrupt during the recession, I lost everything. My marriage ended 6 months later. I moved into a tiny apartment and worked overnight stocking shelves just to survive. My parents never said they were ashamed of me. They didn't have to. Every family dinner came with little comments. "Jason owns 2 houses. Your cousin just got promoted. Maybe if you tried harder." I tried. God knows I tried. When Christmas came around, I bought everyone small gifts with money I honestly couldn't spare. I thought maybe this year would be different. Instead, Jason pulled my mother into the kitchen. 10 minutes later, she came back with tears in her eyes. She quietly told me they wanted a happier Christmas, without someone who always brought sadness into the room. A burden. That was the word she used. I walked back to my car carrying every gift I had wrapped by hand. Halfway home, I had to pull over because I couldn't see through the tears. That night, I sat alone eating frozen pizza while my phone stayed completely silent. Not one Merry Christmas. Not one text. Nothing. Around midnight, someone knocked on my apartment door, and everything changed. I opened the door expecting a neighbor, or maybe someone who had the wrong apartment. Instead, I found my elderly neighbor, Mr. Howard, standing there with a small plate of homemade cookies wrapped in plastic. He smiled like he had known me my whole life, and said, "Nobody should spend Christmas Eve alone." Those simple words nearly broke me. I invited him inside, embarrassed by my tiny apartment and the frozen pizza still sitting on the coffee table. He didn't seem to notice. We talked for hours. He told me about losing his wife years earlier and admitted that Christmas had become the hardest day of the year for him. Somehow, 2 strangers made each other feel less alone than my own family ever had. Before he left, he looked at me and said something I still remember. "The people who make you feel worthless usually need someone to blame for their own problems." I barely slept that night. Around 7 the next morning, my phone exploded with missed calls. My mother had called 6 times. Jason had called 4. Even relatives who hadn't spoken to me in months were suddenly leaving voicemails begging me to answer. At first, I thought someone had died. Then my cousin Megan finally reached me. Her voice was shaking. She said, "Don't go anywhere. Everyone's coming to see you." I asked what happened, but she refused to explain over the phone. Less than 30 minutes later, I looked through my apartment window and saw 3 cars pulling into the parking lot. My parents stepped out first. Jason followed behind them. My aunt, my uncle, and even 2 cousins climbed out of the other vehicles. The same people who decided Christmas would be happier without me were now rushing toward my apartment. My hands started shaking. I didn't know whether to lock the door or demand answers. When I finally opened it, my mother burst into tears before I could say a word. Jason couldn't even look me in the eyes. My father, a man who had almost never apologized for anything in his life, stood there with his head down. Then my mother whispered the words I never expected to hear. "We know the truth now, and we've made a terrible mistake." I stared at all of them, completely confused. What truth? And why had it taken less than one night for my entire family to go from throwing me away to standing at my door begging for forgiveness? I didn't invite them in right away. I stood there looking at every face that had turned its back on me less than 24 hours earlier. My father finally broke the silence. "It wasn't your fault." Those 4 words hit harder than every insult I'd heard over the past 5 years. Jason stepped forward, still unable to meet my eyes. His hands were shaking. "I've been lying to everyone," he admitted. "About you, about the business, about everything." The room went completely still. He confessed that when my construction company was struggling, I had asked him to invest in a project with me. I trusted him because he was my brother. Instead, he secretly used my financial records to convince the rest of the family that I was irresponsible with money. He told everyone I had borrowed thousands from him and wasted it gambling. None of it was true. The truth was even worse. Jason had quietly taken money from our parents for years, claiming he was helping me get back on my feet. Every dollar they gave him, he kept for himself. He bought a new truck, remodeled his kitchen, and paid off credit cards while telling everyone he was saving his little brother. I felt sick. My own parents had believed every word because Jason always looked successful. I looked like the failure, so his lies made sense to them. What changed? I finally asked. My cousin Megan answered. Last night, while everyone was opening presents, Jason got drunk. Drunk. He started bragging that it was easy to fool people if they already wanted someone to blame. He laughed about how everyone had chosen him over me without asking a single question. The entire room had gone silent. Then my father demanded proof. Jason's wife, who had secretly grown tired of living with his lies, walked upstairs and brought down bank statements, messages, and old emails she had saved for years. Every lie collapsed in minutes. My mother covered her face and cried harder than I'd ever seen. My father walked out of the house without saying a word. The Christmas celebration ended before anyone finished opening gifts. As Megan finished telling me everything, I looked at Jason. He was crying now, but I couldn't tell if he was sorry or simply sorry he had finally been caught. I took a long breath and asked everyone one question. If none of this had come out last night, would any of you still believe I deserved to spend Christmas alone? No one answered. Their silence gave me the answer I already knew. That's when I realized I had one final decision to make. One that would change every relationship in my life forever.